was going crazy in that month.
Yeah, I went crazy.
I'm not the same person.
New footage just dropped, and it puts Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane in a moment nobody saw coming. I mean, we all knew something was off between the OG and his former artist, but no one expected this recent clip to surface. Here's the whole rundown on what happened. The lick. In mid-January 2026, Gucci Mane got robbed. This happened out in LA. They took his wedding band and his timepiece. The people responsible, according to multiple sources, were tied to Pooh Shiesty and his crew.
Actually, Gucci Mane was just robbed recently in they say it was in LA. I know that I don't know if you got to see the whole Gucci Mane Pooh Shiesty beef that's been going on.
The whole situation kicked off after a meeting. Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty linked up in LA to chop it up about Shiesty's contract situation with 1017 Records. Shiesty wanted to bounce. Gucci wasn't having it. The meeting wrapped up. Then, just minutes later, according to the streets, a squad of dudes pulled up on him.
He was just robbed for his wedding ring and his watch. And they say Pooh Shiesty might allegedly have something to do with it, but they're not sure. But apparently him and Pooh Shiesty had a meeting in LA, and the meeting was over Pooh Shiesty trying to get off the 1017 label.
Here's how it allegedly played out. Shiesty slides into the meeting. He rolls deep with his people. The contract talk gets heated real quick. Shiesty puts pressure on Gucci Mane to sign those release papers. Gucci signs. Shiesty and his crew dip out. Within minutes, another group slides in. They snatch the wedding ring. They take the watch. They ghost.
Cuz got robbed for his wedding ring and his fucking watch. Losing this shit right the fuck now. I'm not saying what city he got robbed in or nothing like that.
Now, the connection between Shiesty and the dudes who ran up on Guwap is still alleged at this point. No footage of the actual lick has surfaced. No police reports have been filed publicly. But that timing, though, it raised mad questions. The meeting went down. Shiesty left. The robbery happened right after. People weren't buying that as coincidence. Blogger Tasha K came through with the most explosive claims. She put it out there that Gucci Mane was kidnapped by Pooh Shiesty and held at gunpoint until he signed a contract releasing him from his Death Row Records 2.0 situation. That Death Row Records 2.0 reference was pointing to the infamous label that Suge Knight ran back in the day, known for all that aggressive and allegedly violent business back in the 90s.
Of course, Gucci Mane's like, hell no. And apparently it was like one of those Vanilla Ice Suge Knight situations where Pooh Shiesty pretty much walked in there and was like, yo, look, you gonna sign this shit. We gonna make sure you sign this shit.
That Suge Knight comparison hit different because of the history. Back in the early 90s, Suge allegedly used straight intimidation tactics to secure contracts. The most legendary story involved Vanilla Ice. Word was that Knight hung Vanilla Ice over a balcony to force him to sign over his royalties. Whether that actually went down or it's just hood folklore at this point, the story became legendary. Now, sources were drawing direct parallels between how Shiesty moved and how Suge used to operate.
And apparently Shiesty was with some people and they made him sign it over. And then after they left, they say within minutes, a group of alleged some gangbangers rolled in there and relieved Gucci Mane of some jewelry.
The ice they took wasn't no regular jewelry either. That wedding ring was worth over $200,000. The watch, reportedly a Patek Philippe, was valued at over $300,000. Some sources were claiming the total bag, including cash and other assets, reached $2 to $3 million. Gucci had security with him too. That part matters. He didn't walk into this meeting by his lonesome or without protection. He had his people on deck, but the ones who came through were strapped up heavy. His security was outgunned from jump. The robbery never got reported to the cops, at least not publicly. No warrants went out for Shiesty or anybody else. The story spread through the blogs, through the socials, through all the hip-hop news outlets. It stayed unconfirmed, but the details were specific enough that people were buying it. The wedding ring, the watch, the timing right after the meeting, the armed dudes, the connection to Shiesty's contract beef. Some folks were calling cap on the whole story though. Comments on social media range from straight skepticism to complete disbelief. One commenter wrote that nobody got no Crips to rob no Gucci Mane. The implication was that Guwap was too plugged in, too connected, too respected in these streets to get run up on by anybody. But others pointed out that clout and respect don't stop bullets. The robbery, whether it went down exactly as described or not, represented a complete fracture in the relationship between Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty. A year earlier, Gucci had been writing for Shiesty, advocating for his release from the feds. Now, according to multiple sources, Shiesty had either orchestrated or enabled a lick against him. The switch-up was complete. The relationship before everything went left The foundation between Guwap and Pooh Shiesty was built on mentorship, opportunity, and mutual benefit. Understanding the depth of what got destroyed requires understanding what they once had. Gucci Mane didn't just put Pooh Shiesty on with a record deal. He invested in the youngin', pushed his music, and positioned him as the future of 1017 Records during a pivotal stretch for both their careers. Pooh Shiesty, born Lontrell Donald Williams Jr., came up out of Memphis, Tennessee, with a style that fused the city's traditional crunk sound with the trap wave that Gucci Mane had been pioneering since the mid-2000s. When Gucci signed him to 1017 Records in 2020, he was betting on an unproven artist with authentic street credentials and raw bars, but no commercial receipts, no proven ability to move units, no established fan base. That gamble paid off huge at first. The single Back in Blood featuring Lil Durk went absolutely crazy. The track went platinum multiple times, putting Shiesty on the map as one of the hardest new voices in the game. His debut tape, Shiesty Season, caught critical acclaim and moved serious numbers. That signature blurred ad-lib became unavoidable on every social media platform. Shiesty wasn't just another 1017 artist, he was the 1017 artist, the face of the label's future, the one positioned to carry the trap torch that Guwap had been holding. Gucci showed love when success came through. When Shiesty Season dropped and the numbers came back looking right, Gucci blessed Shiesty with a slime green Jeep Trackhawk. That color was significant. Green was 1017's signature, a visual marker of the label's whole identity. That gift wasn't just a whip, it was a statement about belonging, about family, about investment in Shiesty's future. The moment got captured and posted everywhere, solidifying the image of Gucci Mane as a boss who took care of his people. The relationship operated on levels beyond just business transactions. Gucci had survived the streets, survived doing time, survived battling addiction, and rebuilt himself into a legitimate business mogul and respected figure in hip-hop. He positioned himself as someone who could guide younger artists through the same traps he had navigated. Shiesty represented the ideal vessel for this mentorship, young, talented, hungry, and connected to the streets in ways that gave his music that authentic feel you can't fake. Then the feds came knocking. In 2020, Pooh Shiesty caught a case in Miami that would completely derail his momentum. The situation involved firearms and a robbery at a hotel, allegedly connected to a weed deal that went sideways. The legal system moved slow, but it moved certain. By 2021, Shiesty was locked up on federal gun and robbery charges. His promising run was suddenly on indefinite hold. Gucci's response during this stretch was notably solid. He didn't abandon his artist when the money stopped flowing in. He didn't distance himself when the association became potentially problematic. Instead, he advocated publicly for better prison conditions for Shiesty. In 2022, Gucci put it out there that Shiesty was getting mistreated in federal custody, dealing with extended lockdowns and trash food. He used his platform and his influence to shine light on these conditions. This advocacy mattered because it went beyond what the contract required. Gucci had no legal obligation to speak up for how Shiesty was being treated behind bars. He had no financial incentive. Shiesty wasn't generating any revenue while sitting in a cell. The advocacy appeared to come from genuine concern, from the mentor-mentee bond that had developed, from loyalty that extended past business arrangements. The bid lasted over 4 years. From 2021 through late 2025, Pooh Shiesty sat in federal prison, while the music industry kept it moving without him. Trends shifted, new artists emerged. The momentum that Back in Blood had generated faded as newer tracks captured the culture's attention. Shiesty's absence created a vacuum that competitors filled eagerly. Throughout this entire period, the public relationship between Gucci and Shiesty stayed stable. No public beef, no cryptic social media posts hinting at friction, no reports of contractual disagreements. Gucci would bring up Shiesty in interviews from time to time, expressing hope for his release and confidence in his ability to come back strong. The narrative was one of patience and loyalty, the label holding it down for its artist during his darkest stretch. When Shiesty finally touched down in October 2025, Gucci's initial response appeared celebratory. He posted a welcoming message on social media saying, "Time to shake the streets up. WAP proud of you." The message used WAP, Gucci's nickname, making the statement personal and suggesting genuine pride in his artist's return to freedom. Everything looked set for a triumphant comeback, for Shiesty to resume his run under the 1017 banner with full support from his mentor. But something had shifted during those 4 years. The relationship that looked solid from the outside had developed cracks that the public didn't peep. The tensions that would blow up into robbery allegations and contract disputes in in January 2026 had roots that extended back months, possibly years. That welcoming post Gucci made when Shiesty got out was allegedly deleted shortly after it went up, the first public sign that the reunion wasn't as smooth as it appeared. The deletion sparked immediate speculation. Why would Gucci welcome his artist home, then scrub the evidence of that welcome? The most obvious explanation was that something went left immediately after Shiesty's release. Either a conversation happened that soured things, or information came to light that made the celebratory tone feel wrong. The Big Scar situation and how it changed everything. The fracture between Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty didn't just materialize out of thin air. Its origins trace back to a death that rocked the 1017 Records family and exposed fundamental disagreements about loyalty, respect, and what you owe people who ride with you. The death of Big Scar became the wound that would eventually tear the relationship apart completely, setting the stage for the explosive confrontation that allegedly went down in January 2026. Big Scar, born Alexander Woods, was a Memphis rapper signed to 1017 Records who had carved out his own lane on the label's roster. His sound carried the gritty authenticity of Memphis street rap, and his connection to the 1017 family went deeper than just professional obligations. Most importantly for this story, Big Scar was Pooh Shiesty's cousin. They came up together in Memphis, running the same streets that would later provide the raw material for their music. The bond between them existed before any record deals or business arrangements ever got signed.
He's from Memphis. He's actually Pooh Shiesty's little cousin. So him and Pooh Shiesty came up together. When Big Scar died, Gucci was supposed to pay for the funeral, which they said that he didn't.
Big Scar passed away from an overdose. The loss devastated everyone who knew him, but the circumstances surrounding his death created immediate questions about who was responsible for what. As his label boss, Gucci Mane was expected to handle certain things. As his blood, Pooh Shiesty expected certain moves to be made. Where professional obligation and personal grief intersected, friction developed that would prove impossible to resolve. The central issue came down to the funeral expenses. According to sources discussing the situation, Gucci Mane was supposed to cover Big Scar's funeral. That expectation wasn't unreasonable. Label bosses frequently handle such costs for their artists, particularly when the relationship gets framed as family rather than strictly business. The 1017 Records brand had always emphasized loyalty and familial bonds among its roster. Those values were now getting tested. The narrative that initially circulated suggested that Gucci didn't pay for the funeral. This claim spread through social media and hip-hop blogs, painting Guwap as someone who abandoned his artist's family in their moment of greatest need. The optics were terrible. A rich label boss refusing to cover funeral costs for a young artist who had been signed to his label and who was the cousin of his biggest current star.
Then his wife posted receipts that he did pay for the funeral, but he also then asked for the chains back.
The real story turned out to be more complicated though. Gucci's wife, Kishia Ka'oir, publicly posted receipts proving that they had indeed paid for Big Scar's funeral. The documentation appeared to shut down the claims that Gucci had ducked his obligations. From a pure money standpoint, Gucci Mane had handled his business for his fallen artist. But the situation didn't end with the funeral payments. What happened next transformed a manageable controversy into a permanent breach. According to multiple sources, Gucci Mane asked for Big Scar's chains to be returned. The ice in question reportedly consisted of 4 chains that Gucci had blessed Big Scar with during his time on the label. The request for the chains back requires understanding through the lens of hip-hop culture to grasp why it set things off so heavy. Jewelry in hip-hop functions as way more than just decoration or flexing wealth. Chains given from a label boss to an artist carry symbolic weight. They represent approval, success, and belonging to something bigger than yourself. They're trophies earned through achievement, symbols of having made it to a certain level. When Gucci gave Big Scar those 4 chains, he was signaling that Scar had arrived, that he was truly part of the 1017 family. To ask for those chains back after Big Scar died sent a completely different message. To Big Scar's family, the request suggested that the 1017 family was nothing but a business arrangement, that the jewelry represented not earned status, but borrowed props that could be reclaimed when somebody passed.
That turned into a whole online beef, a whole online orchestra, and Shiesty, I guess, just wasn't really feeling the way he went about it.
Pooh Shiesty's reaction to how Gucci handled his cousin's death became the catalyst for everything that came after. Shiesty was still locked up when Big Scar died, unable to attend the funeral or directly participate in the aftermath. He received information about Gucci's moves through intermediaries, through prison calls, through secondhand reports, and each piece of information, whether accurate or twisted, shaped how he viewed his label boss. The beef played out publicly through social media. Comments got made, posts got interpreted, misinterpreted. Screenshots circulated. What might have been a private disagreement between a label boss and an artist became content for blogs and entertainment pages. Each public statement hardened positions and made reconciliation that much harder. Pride got involved. Reputations were on the line, and neither side could easily back down without looking soft. The contract and the escape plan. The business relationship between Pooh Shiesty and 1017 Records had always contained built-in tension. Like most artist label arrangements in hip-hop, the contract that bound Shiesty to Gucci's operation involved trade-offs that seemed reasonable at signing but became increasingly suffocating as success arrived. When Shiesty signed with 1017 Records in 2020, he was an unknown quantity in the industry. He had talent and street credentials, but no commercial track record, no proven ability to generate revenue, no established fan base. From Gucci's perspective, signing Shiesty represented a significant investment. Advances, production costs, marketing expenses, distribution deals, all based on the hope that this young Memphis rapper would connect with audiences and move units. The terms of such deals typically favor the label, especially when signing unproven artists. Record labels assume risk by investing in artists who might flop commercially, and they mitigate that risk by securing favorable revenue splits and extended contractual obligations. An artist who signs during the hungry early days finds that success doesn't automatically translate into proportional financial reward. The label takes its cut first, recoups its investment, and only then does the artist begin to see the majority of what they generated. When Back in Blood went crazy and Shiesty season exceeded expectations, the contract that had seemed acceptable when Shiesty was nobody suddenly felt like a trap. He was generating serious revenue, but the contractual terms meant that 1017 Records captured the lion's share of that value. Shiesty was one of the hottest acts in hip-hop, but he wasn't getting compensated proportional to his market value. This dynamic has destroyed mad artist-label relationships throughout hip-hop history. Gucci himself had experienced similar frustrations earlier in his career, which makes his role in this situation particularly wild to observe. He knew intimately what it felt like to generate wealth while remaining contractually bound to terms negotiated during leaner times. Yet when the positions flipped, when he became the label boss rather than the hungry artist, he enforced contracts with the same rigidity he had once resented from others. Shiesty's incarceration from 2021 to 2025 added another layer of complications to the contractual situation. During those 4 years, he couldn't record new music, couldn't tour, couldn't capitalize on his momentum. But his contract with 1017 Records remained in effect. The clock wasn't paused during his imprisonment. Depending on the specific terms, Shiesty might have emerged from prison with significant remaining obligations to 1017, despite being unable to fulfill them or benefit from them while he was locked up. The frustration Shiesty expressed publicly after his release reflected these compounding grievances. He spoke about blocked music and label betrayal, suggesting that 1017 Records was actively preventing him from dropping new material, whether this was a contractual dispute or a deliberate strategy to maintain control over an unhappy artist. The effect was identical. Shiesty couldn't move forward with his career while still tied to 1017. The situation got even more complicated with rival labels showing interest. Yo Gotti's CMG emerged as a potential landing spot for Shiesty. CMG was based in Memphis, Shiesty's hometown, and Yo Gotti had established himself as a mogul capable of competing with any label in the game. The prospect of signing with CMG represented a return home in multiple ways: geographical, cultural, and professional.
But they're also saying that Shiesty's trying to sign a Yo Gotti. There's a $10 million deal that's already been sitting.
That reported $10 million deal from CMG represented life-changing bread and a fresh start, but Shiesty couldn't accept it while still contractually bound to 1017 Records. Gucci held the keys to his freedom, and Gucci wasn't interested in releasing his most valuable asset to a competitor. That's just business, but when you're on the receiving end of it, business starts feeling personal real quick. The relationship between Gucci and Yo Gotti contained its own complicated history that made the situation even more charged. They weren't ops. In fact, Gucci had once credited himself with keeping Shiesty out of the long-standing beef between Yo Gotti and Young Dolph. That Memphis beef had claimed lives and destroyed relationships. Gucci viewed his signing of Shiesty as having protected him from potential involvement in that violence. But keeping Shiesty away from Yo Gotti during dangerous times was different from preventing him from signing with CMG now. The protective justification no longer applied. Young Dolph was gone. The immediate danger had passed. Now, Gucci's refusal to release Shiesty appeared motivated purely by business interests, by the desire to retain a valuable asset regardless of what that asset wanted for himself. The meeting in Los Angeles that allegedly preceded the robbery was supposed to resolve these issues through negotiation. Shiesty wanted out of his contract. Gucci wanted to keep him. The negotiation, according to sources, went absolutely nowhere through conventional means. Gucci reportedly said, "Hell no," to releasing Shiesty from his obligations. The impasse was total. Neither side was budging. What happened next, according to the allegations, was that Shiesty decided to force the issue. If Gucci wouldn't sign the release voluntarily, Shiesty and his associates would ensure he signed it involuntarily. The Suge Knight comparison that multiple sources made was intentional. This was allegedly an old-school resolution to a business dispute, the kind that had characterized the music industry's most violent era back in the 90s. The aftermath and what it means for the game. The immediate aftermath of the alleged robbery has been characterized by strategic silence from the main players and loud speculation from everybody else. Gucci hasn't directly confirmed that the robbery occurred, though his actions, including the deletion of his welcome home post for Shiesty, suggest something significant went down. He's responded indirectly through social media and through his people, engaging in what observers have called a loyalty war, without explicitly confirming the robbery allegations. Pooh Shiesty has maintained a similarly strategic silence regarding the specific allegations. He hasn't denied orchestrating or participating in the robbery, but he also hasn't confirmed it. His public statements have focused on his grievances with 1017 Records, the blocked music, the label betrayal, the frustration of being unable to capitalize on his release from prison. These statements provide context for why he might have taken extreme action without admitting to any specific extreme action. It's a careful play, legally speaking. The legal implications of the allegations remain unclear. No police reports have surfaced publicly. No arrests have been made in connection with the alleged robbery. The absence of official legal action creates ambiguity. Did the robbery not happen as described? Did Gucci choose not to report it, or are investigations proceeding quietly? Each possibility carries different implications for how the situation might resolve. One rumor suggested that Gucci's wife, Keisha Kawer, allegedly contacted Shiesty's parole officer to report a kidnapping. If true, this would represent a major escalation, potentially jeopardizing Shiesty's freedom, given that he was released from federal custody on conditions that would definitely be violated by participating in a kidnapping and robbery. However, this claim remains unverified, and Shiesty hasn't been taken back into custody, suggesting either that the report wasn't made, that authorities determined it lacked merit, or that investigations are still ongoing.
I just had that conversation with somebody. I think that nigga would be in jail right the now, honestly. I think that nigga would be in jail right the now. Just because of the timing.
The homie speaking in that clip noted the suspicious timing. If Shiesty had been directly involved in a robbery and kidnapping, given his parole status, he would likely already be back in custody. His continued freedom suggests either that the allegations are exaggerated, that he maintained sufficient distance from the actual lick to have deniability, or that no formal complaint was filed. The streets are watching, but so are the feds, and they haven't moved yet. The involvement of Memphis affiliates like the Rolling 60s Crips in the alleged robbery adds another dimension to the whole situation. This allegedly wasn't simply Shiesty and a few homies confronting Gucci. It was potentially gang-affiliated individuals with their own interests and motivations. The gang connection elevates the situation from a contract dispute to something way more dangerous, with implications that extend beyond the music industry into street politics. Even more disturbing were reports that Hernandez Govan, identified as the father of Young Dolph's accused killer, publicly taunted Gucci on social media in the aftermath of the alleged robbery. This connection draws the incident into the broader web of Memphis violence that has claimed multiple lives over the years. The presence of such figures in the narrative suggests that whatever happened to Gucci wasn't an isolated incident, but part of larger patterns of conflict and retaliation that run deep in those streets. The broader implications of this for the hip-hop industry deserve serious consideration. The 1017 Records model and models like it depend on a certain mythology, the label boss as mentor, protector, and father figure, the artist as family members bound by loyalty that transcends mere contracts, the shared success that supposedly benefits everyone who contributed to building it. This mythology serves important functions. It attracts talent, it encourages loyalty during difficult periods, it creates narratives that fans find compelling. But the mythology has always existed in tension with the business realities. Labels profit from artists' work. Contracts that seem fair at signing can become exploitative as artists succeed. The family talk can mask relationships that are fundamentally about extraction. And when artists realize this, the potential for conflict is built in. It's almost inevitable. Gucci's transformation from artist to label boss created a particular version of this tension. He knew from personal experience how it felt to be on the losing end of label arrangements. His entire public persona after prison emphasized redemption, growth, and treating people better than he had been treated. The allegations that he asked for Big Scar's chains back, that he blocked Shiesty's music, that he refused to release an artist who wanted out. These allegations, if true, contradict that persona in fundamental ways. Pooh Shiesty's perspective on his own transformation came through clearly in interviews conducted after his release from prison. His years of incarceration had given him time to reflect on what mattered, on what he wanted from his life, on what he was and wasn't willing to accept anymore.
Do you remember the moment when a breakthrough came where you said, when I get out, I'm done with all this dumb shit? Was it a moment where you was going through it so much, or you got a revelation where you just like, this ain't it, man. I ain't with this
Alarm
shit.
clock came on,
Yeah,
man.
alarm
I
clock.
been knew that shit wasn't what's up though. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't for that, man. I'm a free world type of nigga like that. You know, ride fast cars, count money, put that shit on, you know?
The irony is wild. Shiesty speaking about leaving behind dumb shit, even as allegations circulated that he had orchestrated a robbery and forced contract signing. His stated desire for legitimate success existed alongside alleged methods that were anything but legitimate. The tension between who he claimed to want to be and what he allegedly did reflects broader contradictions in hip-hop culture itself. The game demands authenticity, but that authenticity often includes street moves that directly conflict with stated goals of going straight. Gucci's own words about personal transformation take on new meaning in light of these events. In interviews, he had spoken about becoming a different person, about growing beyond the violence and negativity that had characterized his earlier career.
Walk in there.
Yeah, he in there.
But do you feel as if though you're a totally different person?
I do. I feel like I done grown and matured. Like the person I was at 10 years ago, I'm not the same person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the person I used to be, I'm nowhere near that. Like I'm way more mature, I'm way nicer.
The man who described himself as transformed into an optimist who could see good in stuff was allegedly robbed at gunpoint by someone he had mentored and supported for years. Whether Gucci's claims of transformation were genuine or just performance, the situation tested them severely. How does someone who claims to have left violence behind respond to violence directed at them? How does optimism survive betrayal of this magnitude? These are real questions without easy answers. The community response to these allegations has been divided, but the truth likely contains elements of the different perspectives. Gucci may have been simultaneously a supportive mentor and a shrewd businessman who prioritized his label's interests over his artist's desires. And Shiesty may have had legitimate grievances about his treatment, while also allegedly choosing methods of resolution that were criminal and dangerous. What do you think probably played out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section.